Okay. So, hi guys to everybody who's watching. Today we're interviewing Albert, who I've been kind of wanting to interview for a while. He, as I told him before we started recording, he is kind of one of those people where 2 years ago I would have thought I'm never gonna be able to meet this person. I've been following him for a long time, and I'm pretty happy he has said yes and he's here. Hi, Albert.
Hi, Alex. Super nice to meet you. I think it's awesome that you're putting together this show. So I'm really excited to chat and talk about everything that we have prepared.
Yeah, I tried to make of it what I would have wanted to watch when I was starting out as an engineer, kind
Mhm.
of just a bunch of collections of just people who have interesting careers.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great idea.
To start off, what I usually ask pretty much everybody because it gets the conversation going. Can you tell me a bit about like your childhood, maybe just something that says, this is Albert, this is like who he was, this is his personality. It's like a story like that.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in California. My parents actually immigrated to the States from China, but I was born and raised in Southern California, around the LA area, and I'd say I had a pretty normal childhood. Moved around a little bit, but just within California, and I think I was like pretty introverted as a kid. Growing up, I didn't really like socialize that much. Definitely kept to myself. I like to read a lot, but I think I definitely had like a social part of me that came out during the high school years. I did student government, marching band. I really enjoyed like I think I was decent at the maths and the science subjects, but I was like I definitely enjoyed the reading and the literature and the social studies kind of subjects more. And then throughout college, I studied computer science, electrical engineering, and computer science at Berkeley. And then ended up working in the Bay in Silicon Valley right after graduation. So I've been in the Bay for about close to 10 years now, maybe if not more, because I graduated in 2016, but college for 4 years. So yeah, it's been over 10 years now. And, I've been working at a various number of Silicon Valley startups and companies. I've kind of gone like earlier and earlier stage each time. The first like big tech company I worked at, it wasn't big, it was like mid stage growth startup, was called Samsara, great IoT company, built hardware and software. I worked on the compliance team there. So I saw the company grow from around 500 people to close to 2,000 people. And I left right before the IPO to join Alchemy. And Alchemy is the first like Web3 company, the first full-time Web3 company that I did. And then I did that for about a year and a half, tried a completely new career track doing developer relations and community and content. And then now I've joined Catherine and Kay and the early team at DeForm to build Web3 Typeform. So very excited to kind of get back on the. But yeah, throughout my life, I think I've just been very much like an explorer. I would say that's kind of my core personality type. I really like working with people. I really like understanding people's stories. I like getting my hands dirty and kind of trying new things. So that's kind of a quick overview of me.
It's a great overview. I wanted to first ask you, how is California? Because I've never been, so I get
Yeah, I
mixed,
mean,
a lot of mixed opinions on it.
for sure. I mean, I've definitely heard the whole range. It'd be awesome if you can visit California someday. I'll show you around. In San Francisco, LA, wherever. I mean, I'm obviously very biased. I've been in California, I'm based in California my entire life. I love it. I think it's great weather, amazing food. I think like both Northern California with the San Francisco Bay Area kind of hub, as well as Southern California with LA. They're two very big industries. Um, you know, like global industries, really, technology and then entertainment. So it's like very exciting. There's always something new. There's always like people kind of moving in and out of the state. I mean, I think some of the complaints are that it's very expensive. And also, there might be some like government policies and stuff that could be improved over time. But overall, there's a reason why it's expensive. A lot of people want to be here for these
Yeah.
industries, or like for the weather, for the opportunities. So it's definitely a very difficult balancing act, I think, to make sure that this place continues to be a really good place to live. But for now, like, yeah, I love it a lot.
It's probably like if like somebody asked me if I was going to the US, if I could go just to one place in the US, which would I pick? And I immediately said San Francisco, just because in my imagination at least, and I may be completely wrong, But in my mind, it's like, this is I'm an engineer. This is the place to be. I'm going to meet so many amazing people there,
Yeah.
regardless of maybe because people told me it's maybe dirty on the streets or whatever. I'll put up with that just because of the network. I'll go there if I can.
Yeah, definitely. I resonate with that a lot. I think, I'm still very young. I think a lot of people have that young energy that are like people who are hungry, willing to start something new. And it's not great that there is like a lot of homelessness in the area. But it's like for people who are really desperate enough to try and build something big and make something of themselves, like it's an amazing place because you have such a high density of amazing companies, amazing talent, people who are kind of like, willing to work with each other to explore the possibilities of the future. And
Yeah.
so to your point, exactly, like that's why I think San Francisco is such an amazing place for technology and developing
There's not a lot
technology.
of places like
Um,
that. Like maybe like the only cities that I've heard where it's like hungry people over hungry people over hungry people, and it's just a place to get shit done. I've heard that about San Francisco. I've heard that about New York. I've heard that maybe about Dubai, but that's about it. Maybe max five
yeah.
cities in the whole world which have that kind of collective mentality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's like, I think it's really hard to build that in a city. You have to reach a certain threshold of a lot of
Mm.
different things, like enough people living in the city, but also the infrastructure of the city, and also like the companies that are already there, investors, like even just like restaurants and housing infrastructure, like this kind of stuff. You kind of have to have all those ingredients in place. So I've been hearing about new cities kind of like becoming more popular, especially over the COVID movement. And I think maybe someday there'll be more hubs, which I think will be really cool. But yeah, for now, it's like
For
it's the
now,
top
it's
cities will
still.
continue to be the top cities.
Yeah. Here's the thing I really want to ask you, because I think everybody that knows you knows about the rap videos. They're really, really cool. And uh, what I did not know until I started doing kind of my research for this interview was that you actually started doing this in high school, which I really want to ask you because I was also kind of an introvert in high school until I started boxing. Boxing kind of pushed me out of my shell. But how did you even have the courage to
Oh.
go, literally go on stage and just rap in front of so many people? Because I would have been so afraid to do that in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, it's like it started out as like a really great way for me to express my like writing some raps and then kind of like recording it and mixing it and performing it in my own bedroom was a great way to like start expressing myself because it's this perfect balance of like I don't really have to interact with people, while I'm still in that kind of introvert mode, but I do have a lot that I want to say, right? Or just like, feelings that I want to just put out there and like receive that kind of feedback. So it was a great way to start is just like writing these raps and utilizing some of my like writing skills or just like desire to write. And I mean, I was pretty musical growing up too, like learned how to play piano and was part of marching band, all that stuff. And I think there was only one time that I performed on stage. Now I'm thinking back on it, and it was that high school performance.
Yeah.
It was like a winter concert with our like orchestra, and then we decided to like have set up this fun like segment where we did a cover of I forget the name of the song, but it's like the Justin Bieber, like one of the Justin Bieber Christmas songs. And then like I wrote a rap over it, and then we had a bunch of friends like who played piano and like did drum set, and then someone else was singing. It was a really fun crowd, but that was definitely very nerve wracking because it's like, wow, this is the
Yeah.
first
It's
time I've
been
actually done
mad.
it in front of a huge crowd. Yeah. But I think it's just overall it's just fun. Like I think rap just happened to be like this hobby that started early, and it's just like a fun way to communicate something. It's very useful. I found in like I actually the rap that I had written like about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now, actually kind of led to my job at Alchemy as a developer
Yeah.
relations engineer because they were like, oh wow, this is someone who has an engineering background but can also like put himself out there and kind of communicate and be entertaining and like be friendly. So I mean, I wouldn't have predicted that coming into it, but looking
Yeah.
back, it's like it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of yeah, having these kinds of hobbies is a good way to figure out like
It is.
how to show your personality to the world and tell a story.
It is. I've kind of gotten my developer advocate job about when you got yours, because I remember you posted the YouTube short about your salary when like a few months after I got mine. And I ended up kind of moving away from
Yeah.
developer advocacy into full stack engineering just because of the needs of the company. But I started out in developer advocacy, and I kind of joined super randomly, just the same way you joined Alchemy, the way I joined was basically just I went into the Discord of Toucan Protocol where I'm employed now. I contributed open source a Discord bot. Then they saw I have a YouTube channel, which back then was even smaller than now, and they were like, you know what?
Yeah,
You could make a. You're not a great engineer, but you could make a developer advocate. And that's why I joined. So yeah, definitely having like I guess not weird, but just random hobbies and being like a versatile human being opens up a lot of.
definitely. I mean, I think that's the amazing part about the internet in general, which is like it allows you to put yourself out there in ways that that make it so that the content that's out there is just working for you while you sleep, and people are kind
Yeah,
of seeing it. They're finding ways that you could provide value to them. So that's really awesome to hear, and I'm sure you're a great engineer as well.
I'm much better now than a year and a half ago when I joined.
That's awesome.
Much.
That's good.
I even tell my friends sometimes, like, you just go start making some content. It doesn't have to be great. Not a lot of people have to watch it, but because now I have like some videos that have maybe over 1,000 views, but back then I had max 50 views. That did not matter because they still like the initiative and people
Yeah,
love the
yeah,
initiative.
exactly. That's on point for sure.
Yeah. So that's how you kind of joined Alchemy. I love that story. I know you also have it on your channel, which I'm actually going to link at some point in the description or somewhere. But I also am curious. So you finished high school in
Cool.
electrical engineering, right? College in electrical engineering, right? And then you ended up as a software engineer at Samsara. How did
Yeah.
that transition happen?
Yeah, so I mean, I abbreviate the story a little bit, but right after graduation, I actually worked at a smaller startup called Magoosh, Magoosh. And this was an education technology startup that was building a platform for people to self study for standardized tests like the GRE, the GMAT, TOEFL, SAT, all of these kinds of tests that really help you get to apply for the next level of education that you're interested in. And Magoosh, I found Magoosh. I think they reached out to me actually towards the end of my senior year in university, and I thought it was really great place. It was a company that's building a product that really makes a huge difference because it allows people to kind of subscribe for like $100, and then they would get all the access to materials and teachers to really get them to the next level. Whereas a lot of other classes that they would have to take are maybe thousands of dollars. So it's kind of like, oh, this is a cool application of technology to save people a lot of money, give really high quality opportunities, level people up, and then it was like a cool product to build. So I actually started there. I was a full stack web developer there. Worked on, it was like Ruby on Rails app, and then we had like study guides, and we had this whole like self test practice kind of product. And then we also had a mobile app, so I learned some React Native there. And then during a hackathon, I actually built an Amazon Alexa voice skill so that you can practice like vocabulary with the
Yeah.
Alexa, device.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got started. And I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And I think as I worked there, I was like, wow, I really want to actually go like super deep into technology and software engineering and like work at a, like a Silicon Valley tech startup, like get the whole stereotypical adventure of like a high growth, company and like this kind of stuff. So that's when I really, really looked really hard. I interviewed super hard. I practiced a lot. I did lead code questions. I built side projects. I went to a bunch of meetups, hackathons, networked as much as I could, got advice from my friends. And I think I ended up interviewing at like, I forget how many companies, but I think I did it from between like 50 and 100 interviews during that time when I was looking for my next job. And then I ended up going to on-site interviews, like the final stage interviews for about 5 companies. And then Samsara was one of them. And I also interviewed with like Google, Amazon, Uber, this startup called Neighborly, and then Samsara was the 5th. And so after interviewing with all of them, I was like, oh, you know what? Samsara seems like the most amazing one. It's solving this really, really important real world use case of logistics and compliance and safety for like truckers and like, yeah, basically truckers around the world. So it
Trucking
was
is a
very
big
interesting
business.
because it was this industry that was that?
Trucking is a big business.
Yeah, it's huge. And it was like, my naive self, I'm like, oh, I didn't know this part of the world existed, but like once I found out about it, I was like, yo, this, yeah, of course, this is like a no brainer. We should be like applying technology to this field. So it was really fun to like join that company. Like everyone I talked to there was very hungry, but also very easy to work with. Like I could see that they would be good teammates. They're very communicative. People definitely like take a lot of ownership. And so I was like, okay, I think this is the company to go with. And so I joined, and I was there for about 3 years and worked on full stack, a lot of different projects. We had a Golang on the back end with like a lot of different microservice infrastructure. And so it was really cool to figure out like how do we have the right visibility into our system so that when things break you actually know what's going on. So learned a lot about that kind of like back end infrastructure side of stuff, how to scale things, because we're reading a lot of GPS data points from these hardware boxes that we put into truckers' trucks. They buy them and they install them, and then we're like, okay, we can read these GPS data points from where your truck is going, and then we can calculate all kinds of useful stuff for you. And so you have to think a lot about scalability for like how to do that well. And then there's also a web application, and then there's also a mobile application, so it was really like full stack. So yeah, learned a lot there. It was really fun, but that kind of really I would say like deepened my software engineering experience. And it also showed me like what I wanted to do next. I got the opportunity while I was at Samsara to start a brand new office. So I was based in the San Francisco office, and then I got the opportunity to help start a new office in Atlanta, Georgia, also in the U.S. Because they wanted to kind of hire more engineers there, possibly more like salespeople, things like that. And so they picked me as like someone who could really like help spearhead some of the early culture around like how we work together, how do we recruit new people, things like that. So that was like a scary opportunity because I was like, oh wow, like I didn't think I would have to like move away from SF for part of my job, go long distance with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my fiance. And so there's a lot of stuff going on there, but I was very excited to do it. And once I did it, I realized like I really enjoy some of the people aspect of the technology industry as well. So that kind of,
I was
opened
gonna
some doors.
say that. I was gonna say that kind of ties up into you becoming a developer advocate, and that also feels like a huge responsibility to be the person that kind of starts a new office and sets up the new culture. Like, how old were you when this happened?
This was 2018, so 5 years ago. So I was about 23 or 24 years
Wow.
old. Yeah.
So I'm
I mean,
24.
it was with a team. It wasn't just me leading everything. We also hired like a local engineering manager who like had a lot of experience in Atlanta. So we all got to work together. But yeah, it was definitely like a new experience for me, and definitely helped me level
Yeah.
up in ways that I didn't
Also,
expect.
just moving because I would imagine the culture in Atlanta is totally different to California.
Yeah, I think so. There are pretty big differences. Yeah. It's funny how like the different city and the different networks that you have in the city and the different like the culture of the city itself can impact like, that role, even though it's the same role across the world. Yeah, I would say there were some differences, but I think it's like you have to figure out how to celebrate those differences and take advantage of what is strong in each part of the world. That's important.
Definitely trade offs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You seem to have a very extensive, not okay. How do I say that in a good way? Very varied engineering experience, like React Native, Golang, IoT, front end, full stack. How do you feel about that? Because like I see people, obviously, the internet is a big place with a lot of opinions. Some people say, hey, you got to specialize. Some people say, no, being a generalist is actually going to make you a better software engineer. What's your opinion after all these years?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't think like there's a right way. I think it ultimately depends on what you're trying to build with your career. I think both like generalists and specialists are very much needed, and it depends on like the business needs and your team composition and things like that. I know about myself now after all these years, like I like being more on the generalist side because what I want to do is like figure out an important business need, a business problem, and then figure out how can we like build a product or build a team or build a business that creates this value that the world needs. And I enjoy like kind of doing whatever it takes to make that happen. So that ends up becoming a very like generalist path, where it's like, maybe I'll do some of the initial like user research or like sales calls, or, once we figure out what the problem is that we're trying to solve, I want to actually get my hands dirty and like build the system as well and like iterate on the code and like make the system better. And of course, it doesn't scale well. Like you can't do everything always to the best of your ability forever. So it also like something I've learned about myself is that at some point, once something starts working, then have to figure out how do I like scale myself, whether it's like make a process easily repeatable or like, find some help, like hire someone else or find a contractor, things like that. And I think there are some things that I do enjoy specializing more than others. But yeah, in general, I think that's what I've learned about myself. So it really depends like what you want to do with your career. And I think specialists are definitely like specializing in something is definitely like a really, really good way to get far in life fast. I think if you specialize in the right thing, they're like you end up becoming let's say you like focus on all your energy on like a very particular, back end technology or just like, back end infrastructure. There are very few people in the world who are going to be able to do what you do. And so the
Yeah.
opportunities that you'll have is going to be huge. Like people are going to be fighting for your talent. And then, once you're in that position, you can always branch out into other things as well. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely like a great way to get started, I would say. Yeah. And then being a generalist in the beginning, when you like are really just bad at everything, then that's like a really hard position to be in because no one wants you for anything. So I
Definitely.
think it makes a lot for me, at least, it makes a lot of sense to like specialize early and then figure out like how you can branch out into other things that might, make you happier or just like whatever.
Makes a lot of sense. I think I'm a generalist at heart too, but I have friends who have specialized in like even smart contract auditing, and you're right, they are very in demand. Like for example,
Yeah.
in zero knowledge auditing, there's like max 500 people in the world that know that shit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's very neat. To just be a
Yeah.
max, it's
Exactly.
like you and a few hundred people, and that's it. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a perfect example, actually. Yeah. I mean, imagine people who are doing it now. These first 500 people, they're going to be doing it for the next couple of years. Maybe only 250 last, and those 250 people are going to be like the most in demand for a long time. And they like then they'll get into a position where they're like leading other teams of doing audits, or they'll like be building businesses that do audits, and then then you could branch out to whatever you want as well. So it's definitely an approach. It just depends on what you want to do.
Definite, definite. How and why did you quit Samsara and moved to? I mean, I know how you joined Alchemy, but why did you quit Samsara?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it was pretty hard because Samsara was an amazing job, great people, and then we were getting to a point where like I think the hardest parts of the stack that I was working on for the company, like with the compliance team, I think the hardest problems were kind of like we were past them a little bit. So it was going to be a very exciting time to like figure out what the new problems are and things like that. I think it coincided with me seeing one of the influencers, the creators that I follow on social media. Shout out to Nusair of Nas Daily. I saw him make this video with Meta Coven, who is like a NFT and crypto investor. They made a video together saying like, "Hey, we need more creators in crypto to actually like talk about the people, the real like value that's being created with this technology, like why NFTs are exciting rather than just a speculation. We need more people to be making content like that. So the way that we're going to help make that happen is we're going to like teach you completely for free how to make videos, how to edit, how to like write scripts that are engaging, and like how to build your brand and like make a living off of this. And then we're also going to pay you to make videos. And all you have to do is like apply. We're going to pick like the top 70 people who we think have the most potential. And then we'll all work together for a couple months and do just that. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I've always wanted to be a content creator. Like it just seemed kind of like a crazy thing because like I'm a software engineer and I don't know, it like takes a lot of effort to do one or the other. But like when I saw this opportunity pop up, I was like, this might be a chance. And then, yeah, Catherine, my girlfriend, my now fiance, she encouraged me a lot. She was like, hey, I know you've always wanted to do this, and it would be a scary move because it's like very unclear. It's a new career track, but just like try it out, apply. So I wrote the rap video, that it's like a short 1 minute rap video as my application. And I was like, here's what I'm trying to do in crypto and content creation. And I was like, oh man, like, I don't know. I spent like 1 or 2 days on it. I don't know if it's like good enough. I'm sure they're going to. And then I got into the program. They actually, on the first day of the program, they showed off my video to the entire cohort of 70 people as one of the like featured applications. They were like, wow, like this one blew us away. And we were so excited for him to do more like raps and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And so it was a very exciting program. And then once I got in, I thought, okay, I kind of want to really give this my all. I wanted to like spend my 150% to see like where this could go. And because it was kind of at this natural transition point in my career at Samsara, I decided to just take the leap of faith and go full time on content creation. So that's kind of how I decided to leave Samsara in 2020 or 2021. I forget now. I think it was 2020. And then I joined. I did content creation for a couple months, and then towards the end of 2020, I think it was 2021 actually. Yeah. And then I joined Alchemy, and I just got connected to Alchemy through all the content I was creating.
There's two things that I want to touch on what you just said, and
Yeah.
one of them is, were you making content before the program?
No, not really. I mean, I had a YouTube channel and I was trying to like play around with stuff. I think I've always like kind of made one-off videos here and there, like maybe some vlogs about
Have
trips,
you
like
deleted
vacations that
some
I've
of
been.
the older videos?
Have I deleted them?
You have some of them at least.
I have them. They're on a different channel.
'Cause that's the thing, because I just know I saw some of your videos. I don't remember any of them, but I just know something's missing from the channel.
Right, right. I mean, I don't want to like, I didn't want to merge the two of them. Like, when I started this like YouTube creator journey, I purposefully created a new brand, which is That Guy in
Mhm.
Tech, and then I was like, okay, this is gonna be about I'm gonna like make sure that I focus on a niche around like technology and software and probably crypto stuff to start out with, and so. Yeah, I kept that separate from like the other channel that's with my personal channel where I was just kind of like playing around. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just wanted to put videos up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I deleted some of my first videos, to be fair. Like, they're gone
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. I mean, it's always embarrassing to look back on early content. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel you on that.
yeah. Another thing that I wanted to note, and I think this is lovely, is your relationship now, fiance. It seems like you guys have been together for a long time, and it seems like she's very supportive
Yeah,
of what you're doing, and I think that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. She's definitely been. I would give her like all the credit I can give for what I've been able to accomplish so far. Catherine is amazing. She's I proposed to her earlier this year. So that was very exciting. We've been together for over 7 years now. And yeah, she's definitely been my rock, my biggest supporter. And I hope that I do for her a fraction of what she does. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. Like I never would have predicted, our relationship to be where it is today, and especially the fact that like we're working together now on Contribution Labs. So for people who don't know, Catherine is actually the CEO and co-founder of DeForm, which is what we're working on now. And then she co-founded the company with Kei Yoshikoshi, who she met at her previous startup. And I was their first like angel check when she was first getting started, because at that time I had just joined Alchemy, and I was like I think it's cool that you have some startup ideas, and I think it's really promising. Like there's definitely a lot that needs to be built here, and I think you're coming from the right position. And I just wanted to be supportive as well. Just say like, hey, like you should just quit your job. Here's some money. Like you don't have to worry about bills for the next like however long, and just try it out. And for me, I was like, I don't want to join at this point because I just started my new career at Alchemy. I don't know what the heck's going on with my life, and I kind of really want to like give Alchemy my all right now. And so yeah, so they had started the company like around the same, like a month or two into me starting at Alchemy. And so watching them grow the company and like explore some early products was really fun. It was awesome. We were kind of like each other's customers as well. While I was building Alchemy University with Vito and Elon and the rest of the team at Alchemy, they were building Mint Kudos, which is like a soulbound token minting platform. And so Alchemy University would use their platform to reward like early contributors and community members. And then they would use Alchemy to build, their platform. So it was very like synergistic. It was very like tied together. And I think for us, at least, it worked out really well. And then, yeah, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but I hacked with them at DevCon in Bogota, Colombia last year. And took like a mini vacation, and that's actually where the idea for DeForm began. Like we all had kind of already had independently come up with this conclusion that like there needs to be some kind of form product like Google Forms, but with a Connect Wallet button. So we hacked together, and it was just so much fun. And I think we got so much early, like great, valuable feedback that, the Minkudos team at the time, they were like, hey, maybe we should actually just like focus our energy on making this product come to life. And so they started doing that. And, I was still like making sure Alchemy University got off the ground. But as I was watching them build, I was like, okay, I really want to make sure that like this product is good and useful. Like I want to help contribute to that, like Alchemy is already a really amazing place to work on. And there's so many great initiatives. But I think this thing, like, it feels like a part of me, like almost I need to like
Yeah.
make it happen. So yeah, so now but TLDR, I'm like working with my fiance and it's an amazing time. Yeah, the team here is great. Everyone here is great, really. So
How big is the team at DeForm?
DeForm right now is 5 people. So mostly pretty much everyone is engineering. And then Catherine focuses a lot on the sales, design, marketing side of stuff as well. And yeah, so we have enough people to kind of like get through and figure out like our early product market fit. So yeah, 5 people.
Did you guys raise money?
Yeah, we've raised a bit. We haven't done an official announcement or anything, and I'll leave that to Catherine and Kay. Maybe if you wanted to have them on the show at some point. Yeah, but yeah, we've raised enough so that we can like really be heads down building for a while. We don't have to worry too much about are we going to like live or not. So it's a nice position to be in.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I always like to know about these type of things. Obviously, some things can't be shared, especially publicly on a show. But like, it's very interesting to me because I come from like a 70,000 people town in Romania, an ex-communist country, where the idea of raising hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars to then go ahead and clack on your keyboard to build an app, it's insane. It's
It
insane,
is.
really.
It is. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. When you put it
but
that
what
way, I
is
mean, it's good perspective. Sorry, I was just gonna say
yeah,
like it's incredible. Like every time I do reflect on it, like the fact that's another reason why I think San Francisco and the Bay Area is like such a magical place. And I would say magical is like the positive interpretation. It's also like insane is the other side of it. But I think you kind of have to have that mix of magical and insane to like have this place where people can dream such big dreams and like make it happen.
yeah.
But yeah, you're totally right. It's like it's crazy that people would just be like, yeah, I believe in you. Here's a shit ton of money, life changing money. Like go figure it out.
No,
It's pretty
it's
wild.
really it's very crazy, and it's also the whole thing is intoxicating because yeah, as you said, here's a life changing amount of money. Just because I believe in
Yeah.
you, go try this thing out. It's crazy and
Right.
it's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love the whole startup.
Yeah. Same.
Can you roughly explain, and please explain as LE5 as possible, how does
Yeah.
D4 work? And then we can dive deeper into the behind the scenes of it, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for context, right now we just released our open beta, so which means you can try it out. Anybody can sign up. So, shameless plug: if you go to app.dform.cc/login or /home, you should be able to log in and create an account. What you're going to see is an experience that's very much like Google Form or Typeform, any of these other form products that you might have used before. Basically, the whole point of it is to have like a Web3 version of these forms so that you can collect information from people, you can survey them, you can get feedback, you can create an event sign up list, you can start generating kind of an allow list for your NFT project drop. The use cases are infinite because like forms are such a fundamental part of like every business transaction. And so we saw this problem in the market, especially like from my perspective, like Catherine was already seeing it from the Mint Kudos product. She was already starting to see evidence that people needed some kind of form like this that had a wallet connect so that you can verify who people really were and like whether or not they really owned the wallet address that they were talking about. And I also
Yeah.
saw this from the Alchemy University side when we were trying to, send out some job applications where we want to set up a job application form and we want people to fill out the form and show us like, hey, you've collected certain Alchemy University badges, NFTs on chain. And also like, are you the right Twitter handle that you say that you are, and all these kinds of things. And there was no easy way to do that. We would send out a Google form and then we would get tens of thousands of responses. And 90% of those responses were fake because people were like speculating, oh, it's Alchemy. They put out a form if we fill it out, maybe we'll get an airdrop at some point, this kind of stuff, which is crazy to me. I'm like, I just want to find some ambassadors who can like really help us scale the community. Why are you botting our forums? And so that pain point really arose, and we started seeing that in a lot of other communities. And so the pain point that we're solving with DeForm is, how do you know who your people really are, the responders of the form really are, and do they own these certain assets, and do they have the wallet address? And so that's what it is. The ELI 5 is, well, I don't know about 5, but it's the simple explanation is it's Web3 Google Forms or Web3 type forms. Or for other marketers who have used SurveyMonkey before, it's like SurveyMonkey, but with blockchain analytics. And so, right now we're focusing on creating the best possible form that also has, Wallet Connect, but also Twitter authentication, Discord authentication, Telegram authentication, any really social connection, or data to kind of like create this human profile of you, like even GitHub authentication, things like that. And in the future, I think there's a lot of different directions we can go, and we can like help brands or help marketers or help like researchers create this kind of survey experience where you're learning about the industry. Maybe you want to know, out of all the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT holders, what brands do they like the most, and which protocols do they interact with the most, or which real world brands are they buying from the most? And you can start creating these kind of market reports or stories. But there's also various other directions we can go in. So it's very exciting. I think it's just like a very good launch point, a very good wedge to start building in a lot of different directions. But I think just even the form product itself is something that the entire Web3 industry desperately needs. So we're very excited to be building that.
It definitely feels like, so basically it's forms, but with on-chain validation. So if I don't have a specific token, I cannot fill the form. I feel like that saves a lot of time. Like you said, you guys at Alchemy had like a lot of very bad just form input, which can definitely be a bummer to filter out, because I used to help run our grant program at Toucan, and the way we received our application was through Typeform. And it was awful trying to read all of those and just walls of text in a table. And how, like, no, please, no, let me alone. Leave me alone. But yeah. Where do you store the data?
Yeah, so right now the data is stored in S3. We use AWS for our stack because we actually have an engineer who built a lot of AWS herself while she was at Amazon.
Wow.
And so we're pretty familiar with that stack. And then I think eventually we can explore directions of like decentralized storage, or just storing data like however the users and the creators of the forms want to keep it stored. Right now, because we're so early stage, we've just been trying to, validate, like, does this problem even work? So anything that helps us build as fast as possible in a secure way, is kind of like, that's the trade-off that we're deciding to make in the early days. But, down the road, I think there's a lot that we can do to continue making DeForm even more, Web3 native, and make sure that people like have the power that to do whatever.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, definitely early days, you have to make certain trade-offs like that. Even big companies do them. I cannot give a specific example right now. I have an example in my mind, but I don't know how much I can disclose. So I'm just
yeah, for sure.
Another question I want to ask you, and I want to kind of start wrapping up because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No worries.
Do you see any patterns in like good developer advocate?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was a big learning curve for me at Alchemy to become a developer advocate, because it was my first time really like learning about the role. But I think fundamentally developer advocacy is about creating this bridge between, the marketing side of a business and then also the product side of a business with the broader community, the people the developers who are really going to be using your business's services. So I think with that goal in mind of creating that bridge, I think like the best skills to have as a developer advocate are anything that really like help you make that bridge, which practically turns into, that's why content creation is so huge, because like that's kind of the inside of the company broadcasting a message to outside to the community. That's like, one of the most scalable ways to do it is to create content online that's easily digestible, that's entertaining, but it's also very useful and informative. Like you're showing off, here's how to use an Alchemy API. And here's how you can make like an application that's very useful for what you might want to do. And so people can kind of like digest that information about the API in a way that makes sense to them and is interesting to them. And then I think there's also the outside to inside relationship of the bridge as well, where you want to go out to the community at hackathons or on the internet or, with one-on-one customer calls, and you want to get all that information of like, what are the pain points of using the service, or even what are the pain points in general, so that the business knows here are the new products that we should be building. And so you're kind of like bringing in all this outside information. So I would say like there's kind of like, I think about it from those two directions, but also there's this meta quality of like, can you be someone who manages all of that? Because there's a lot of context switching where you're like creating content to amplify, and then you're also like hopping on calls or like going to hackathons to like observe and research. And then are you capable of context switching enough to be productive with those things, or even like build out a team to help you with those things? So it's a very interesting job. And I think it's like, it's a very niche job too, but I think it'll be growing over time. Like it's a very good job to be learning right now for people who like enjoy the people side of things, but are also very good at, the technical side of software. It's going to be growing over time because software is eating the world. Every company has a software team. Even the most like non-technical company you might think of or think is non-technical, like they'll have a software team because
Yeah.
it's the internet's eating the world, right? So like you're going to need people who can have this skill set.
You are kind of super right in that it is kind of niche, because I remember a year and a half ago when I joined Toucan as a developer advocate, I told a friend of mine, he's been an engineer for like 8+ years. He's really smart. And I told him, I just became a developer advocate at this and this company, because he's been mentoring me for a lot of time, right? And
Yeah.
he's like, what is even that? And I'm like, yeah. Then I had to explain to him what a developer advocate does. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. It's a very new field.
It is a very new. Any advice you want to give to your younger self?
To my younger self, yeah, that's a good question. I would say probably like if I had to pick one piece of advice, it's just to have an even stronger bias towards action, and also just being honest with what you want. I think that manifests in a lot of different ways. It's a very like vague advice, but I think like, for example, being honest with what you want, that could show up in your personal relationships, like the way that you talk to people about like, here's how I really feel about a certain situation, or even in your career, professionally, like being very like upfront with, here's how I want to develop myself, and here are the skills that I want to build with your managers and with your peers and teammates and things like that. So I think the more that you're like upfront and honest and able to communicate those things, the faster you'll be able to like develop this feedback loop of like getting there. And then combined with a bias towards action, where it's like, don't wait around for something to happen to you. Like you go out there
Yeah.
and like make it happen. I think once I kind of went more towards that direction, I saw like opportunities just open up around me. And yeah, I would say like that's probably the biggest thing. Like if I could go back in time and like do that earlier, I think I would have done even accomplished more at this point. So, and not to say that I have any regrets, but I mean, even you, like Alex, like you reached out, you like set up this document, you like, prepared this amazing show. And like, this is kind of a perfect example, right? Of like just taking initiative, making something happen. And I think like, yeah, I wish I did that earlier.
I mean, I did. I'm doing it pretty late too. I'm 25, so I'm
That's early enough, early enough.
I'm not better at it at all, but I totally agree. I definitely have me personally, I definitely have a bias towards action, but
Mhm.
I also have a bias towards diversifying myself so much that I don't even know what I'm doing at some. So I think the
Oh,
two
that's a
pieces of
great point.
advice.
Yeah, focus is very important.
No, but I think you put it up well when you said that you also have to be very much aware and in tune with what you really want to do. Because if you have a bias for action, but you're very aware of what you want to do, you can't split yourself to think. Because it's going to be very obvious to you, like, yeah, I want to do stuff, but not this stuff, because this is not what I want to do. I want to do the stuff I want to do.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
I
a great
think
way of
that's
putting
really good advice. Yeah, man. Thank you a lot for being on the show. Thank you for the good compliments. I think you're awesome. I'm so glad to have met you. And
it. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Yeah.
in the ending, is there anything you want to plug or shill, or where like I'm gonna put like URLs in the description.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I would say the only thing really is to try out DeForm. We're really trying to make this the most useful form product in the world. So try it out, give us feedback. We're always very open to communicate. So if you tag us on Twitter at DeForm app, DeForm app, we have an intern who's like responding to everything, and they're amazing. And so definitely give us feedback there. Try out the product, create forms, and just engage with us. We're very happy to like talk to everyone. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for coming again.
thank you so much for having this amazing show. This was really fun.